All right, quick question. Have you ever played that first note at a gig or in rehearsal and thought to yourself, why does that sound like that? Because at home, you were feeling yourself. The tone was fat, clear, punchy. And then you get to the venue, plug in, and suddenly your bass is either buried in the mud, thin and angry, or just not you. Well, it's not your playing, and it's also not your gear. It's that you're building your rig by the rules that haven't been true for over 20 years. Let's check it out. Hey, I'm Twistie, and here at TwistieOnBass, we turn rig chaos into confident clarity. Bass rigs didn't just get better over the decades. Arguably, a 1960s Ampeg is still what people are looking for, but they evolved to solve completely different problems. We went from, can you make me loud enough to hear myself over the drummer, to, can you make this portable to fit in the back of my Mini, to, now can you deliver studio grade tone silently through a DI so I can hear what the audience is hearing. Those are three fundamentally different jobs. In this video, we're going to walk through the bass rig evolution timeline. And more importantly, I'll show you exactly how to use it to diagnose your rig, stop guessing, and then build a setup that actually works in the room that you're playing. So here's what's changed in the modern live world. Front of house engineers are now in control of the mix, more so than ever before. Silent stages, in-ear monitors are common, and your DI feed, not your amp and your cab, is often the actual bass sound that the audience hears, even in small clubs. But most of us learned tone in the amp on stage era. We EQ for what's behind our knees and not what's in our ears. We assume that the cab is the source of truth, and then we wonder why the front of house sounds completely different. You're not bad at tone, your rig is just designed for a gig that no longer exists. I spent 2 years convinced my rig sounded wrong because I hadn't quite found that right preamp. I kept buying gear to fix the problem, but that wasn't a gear problem. I kept changing my technique, but it wasn't also my technique. The night that I finally plugged headphones into my DI output and listened to what the engineer was actually hearing, that was the wake-up call. My tone wasn't broken, it was pointed at the wrong target. My knees. In the 1950s and the 1960s, the job was simple, be louder than the drummer. The Ampeg B15 gave us that beautiful tube warmth, but you're always fighting volume. And as guitars got louder, we got quieter, lost in the mix. So then in the 70s, we were delivered the Ampeg SVT, 300 watts of all tube power, enough to fill a stadium. The tone is incredible, but the weight was genuinely dangerous on your lower back. We needed roadies and trucks and forklifts to get to a gig. The trade-off that defined this era was that every room sounded different. And as the bass player, you were chasing the cab, the room, and the engineer all at once. Great for the era, but not built for yours. The 1980s brought us solid state reliability. Brands like Gallien Kruger gave us punch and consistency without the tube overhead. We didn't have all that weight and we got more power. Then Class D amps arrived and the whole game shifted. Your rig went from backline crew required to it fits in a bag. I remember swapping out my David Eden World Traveller amp, beautiful sounding amp, with a 4x10 cabinet and a 2x10 cabinet sitting on top of it. And I swapped those in for a MarkBass and a 2x10 stack of neodymium magnet speakers. And my back rejoiced. The sound was just as good, but now I could carry it in two hands rather than on a trolley. And right at the end of this era, something happened that nobody fully appreciated at the time. The first modelers showed up. Devices like Line 6's bass pod weren't perfect, but they planted the seed of a radical idea. What if your tone didn't need a cab at all? This is the turning point with devices like the Line 6 Helix, the Neural DSP Quad Cortex, the Dark Glass Anagram, and AI-powered tone capture tools like the ToneX and the new Boss and NuX devices that are coming out of everywhere. The cabinet stopped being required for cabinet tone. We moved into impulse responses, amp modeling, and capture technologies that clone a real amp so accurately you genuinely can't tell the difference on a DI feed. And that rig that used to fill a van now fits on a single pedal board or in your pocket. But here's what most players miss. The tools changed, but the approach didn't. They're still building their tone like they're in the 1970s stage, dialing in for the onstage cab and not for the DI mix that goes to the front of house. Your rig needs to match the world you're actually playing in, not the one you learned the tone from. If your DI, whether that's a digital modeler like the Line 6 or the Anagram, or if it's a valve preamp like the Noble or the Ampeg SVT, your DI is what the audience hears. Your DI is where your tone needs to live. The cab becomes your monitor, not your source of truth. So here's the test I want you to run, and I call it the transition check. Listen to your tone through the cab. Then listen to the same thing through headphones or monitors through a desk from the XLR output of your DI. Again, that DI could be a Helix, an Anagram, or a preamp DI pedal. If those two things sound like different instruments, then your rig has a translation problem, not a tone problem. Build your tone from the DI outward, and then the cab will follow. These won't sound the same, but the one that the audience is going to hear is the DI. So that's why we want to focus on that tone first and not the other way around. This is exactly what the bass rig mastery system is built on. So you want to stop chasing that tone and start building a rig that you can trust. Know that the front of house will sound good, even if what you're hearing on stage isn't optimal. Now, amp and cabinet blocks in your modeling device are still critical to getting the tone that you want. There's nothing wrong with trying to chase that 70s sound as long as it's what's coming out of the XLR. So if you want to have a look at the different cab types that you can include in your tone, check this video out next. Catch ya.